Hello, my name is Emily. I am a teacher living in a small town in the United States. I help people learn English every day, and today, I am going to share my story about how I learned to speak English fluently. I hope this story will help you too. When I was a little girl, my family loved to read books. My mother would always tell me, "Emily, if you want to be good at something, you have to practice it every day." She said this whenever I felt like giving up on something. Learning English, or any language, is like learning to ride a bicycle. At first, it feels hard. You may fall, but if you keep trying, you'll get better each day. I remember when I first started learning English. It felt strange. I could understand a few words, but I didn't know how to put them together to make sentences. I would listen to people talking, and I wanted to join the conversation, but I felt nervous. I didn't know what to say, and I was afraid of making mistakes. Have you ever felt that way? It's normal. But here is the first tip I want to share with you. Making mistakes is a part of learning. When I was learning English, I made many mistakes. Sometimes I said the wrong word. Other times, I didn't know how to pronounce a word correctly. But you know what? Each time I made a mistake, I learned something new. The important thing is to keep speaking. Even if you are not perfect, little by little, you will improve. One day, my mother gave me a notebook and said, "Emily, every day, I want you to write one new word in this notebook. Then, practice using that word in a sentence." This was a fun way for me to learn new words. I would write a word like sunshine, and then I would say a sentence like, "The sunshine is bright today." I began to feel more confident in using new words. So here's my second tip. Make it a habit to learn a few new words every day. You can use a notebook, just like I did, or you can use a mobile app. Try to use these words in your conversations. The more you use them, the more you will remember them. Don't worry if you forget a word, just keep practicing, and it will come back to you. As I grew older, I started watching English movies and TV shows. At first, I didn't understand everything. But I loved the way people spoke in these shows, so I kept watching. I would listen carefully to how the actors pronounced words and how they used their hands and faces to express feelings. I also noticed the phrases they used, like "how are you" or "what's going on." Watching these shows made learning English fun for me. Find a show or a movie you like and watch it in English. Don't worry if you don't understand everything at first. You can even use subtitles if that helps. The more you listen to English, the more familiar it will become. It's like listening to music. After a while, you start to remember the words and the melody. One of my favorite memories was when I made my first English-speaking friend. Her name was Sarah, and she lived in my neighborhood. Sarah spoke English very well, and I wanted to speak just like her. One day, I asked her if she could help me practice speaking. She said, of course. From that day on, we would meet after school and talk in English. At first, I was shy, but Sarah was patient. She would correct me if I made a mistake, but she always did it in a kind way. If you have a friend who speaks English, ask them to help you practice. Speaking with someone else is one of the best ways to learn. You don't have to have long conversations at first. Start with simple things, like greeting each other or talking about your day. Over time, you will feel more comfortable speaking. One thing I noticed while learning English was that I often thought in my native language and then tried to translate the words into English. This made speaking slower and more difficult. Sarah told me, "Emily, try to think in English at first." I didn't understand what she meant. But then, I started trying it. When I was at the store, I would look at an apple and think, "That is an apple," instead of thinking in my native language and then translating it. This small change helped me speak faster and more naturally. Instead of always translating in your mind, try thinking in English. Start with simple things, like naming objects around you in English. When you wake up, you can think, I am getting out of bed, or it is a sunny day. The more you practice this, the easier it will become. Another thing that helped me was reading English books. At first, I chose children's books because they were simple and easy to understand. As I got better, I started reading longer books with more difficult words. Reading helped me learn new words and understand how sentences were formed. It also helped me improve my grammar. Reading is a great way to improve your English. You don't have to start with big books. Choose something simple, like a storybook or a comic book. As you read, try to understand the meaning of the words, and if you don't know a word, look it up. Over time, you will build a strong vocabulary. I still remember the first time I spoke English in front of a group of people. It was at school, and I had to give a small presentation. I was so nervous, my hands were shaking, and I felt like everyone was watching me. But I remembered all the things I had practiced, and I took a deep breath. I started speaking slowly and clearly. To my surprise, people understood me. After I finished, my teacher smiled and said, "Well done, Emily." That was the moment I realized that all my practice had paid off. When you are speaking English, don't rush. It's okay to speak slowly. Take your time to think about what you want to say. Speaking clearly is more important than speaking fast. If people can understand you, that's what matters. One of the most important lessons I learned was not to give up. There were times when I felt like I wasn't making progress. I would get frustrated and think, why is this so hard? But then, I would remember what my mother told me: if you practice every day, you will get better. So I kept practicing, and slowly, I saw myself improving. Learning English, like any other skill, takes time and effort. Try to practice a little bit every day. It doesn't have to be for hours. Even 10 or 15 minutes a day can make a big difference. The key is to be consistent. Looking back now, I can see how far I have come. I went from being a shy girl who was afraid to speak to someone who speaks English fluently and confidently. It wasn't always easy, but it was worth it. And you can do it too. So, if you are learning English and feeling unsure, remember this: don't be afraid of mistakes. Learn new words every day. Watch English movies and TV shows. Practice with a friend. Think in English. Read as much as you can. Speak slowly and clearly. And most importantly, practice every day. English is a beautiful language, and with patience and effort, you will master it. You will be able to have conversations, make new friends, and explore new opportunities. Just keep going and never give up. I hope my story has inspired you, and I wish you all the best on your journey to speaking English fluently.